the United States is one of the largest countries in the world in terms of both size and population. But let's be real, its people aren't spread out like butter on toast. Nope. The population is clumped up like a bad traffic jam on either the eastern half or the west coast, leaving this massive belt in the middle that's basically a ghost town on steroids. Here's why that's the case, and trust me, it's not because everyone's scared of tornadoes or something equally dramatic. Hello and welcome to Mysterious Atlas. Now, if you've ever stumbled upon that famous nighttime satellite photo of the US, you'd know without a doubt that most of the twinkling lights are crammed into the eastern half, like they're all attending some eternal party over there. But hey, that's a juicy tale for another day. Today, we're diving into this enormous swath of land stretching from the chilly northern border with Canada all the way down to the sunny southern edge with Mexico, where folks are as rare as a unicorn sighting. It's like the country decided to leave a giant "Do Not Disturb" sign in the middle. But why? Stick around, because we're about to unpack that geographical prank. But before we jump in, if you're craving even more geo-goodness from me, check out my other videos. Who knows? You might discover why your backyard is secretly a hotspot. To really understand this mysterious empty belt in the middle of the U.S., we've got to zoom out and chat about the country's population distribution, because let's face it, Americans don't spread out evenly like they're playing a giant game of musical chairs. The United States as a whole is super concentrated on the eastern half, like everyone's crashing the same backyard barbecue over there. In fact, there's basically a line you can draw across the country that splits the contiguous United States in half. Think of it as the ultimate "you stay on your side" divider. On the eastern side of this line, roughly 80% of the country's population lives, packing in like sardines, while on the other side, it's just roughly 20%, probably enjoying all that elbow room and wondering why no one's joining the solitude party. And the reason for this lopsided setup? It's largely due to a confluence of factors that includes the natural geography. Yeah, the East is like the easy mode level in a video game, less rugged and more forgiving, and where the United States began its existence. In both cases, the eastern half of the country is geographically less challenging. But at the same time, it's also where the United States was first settled when it kicked off as a series of colonies derived from the British Empire. You know, back when crossing the ocean was the big adventure, and nobody was ready to hike across the Rockies just yet. It's like the country started as a coastal club and never quite invited everyone to the inland afterparty. This led to an earlier and easier development of the land, kicking off right on the East Coast like the country's grand opening party. Everyone showed up early, grabbed the best spots, and started building. From there, the United States gradually expanded west, because why not turn that Manifest Destiny vibe into a full-blown road trip? Beginning in 1803, the U.S. scored a massive land deal from France that scooped up a huge area, including much of the modern Midwest-Western region of the country. Talk about a bargain basement sale that changed everything. This purchase also aligned nicely with the Mississippi River watershed, a watery wonderland so vast in its quantity of fresh water that it was like nature's all-you-can-eat buffet for farmers. Relatively easy irrigation for agricultural land, plus bonus points for trade and travel by ship. I mean, who wouldn't love a combo of easy agriculture and easy transportation? It was basically a recipe for rapid development. Mix in some pioneers, stir with ambition, and watch cities pop up like microwave popcorn. At around the same time, development began to spur along the West Coast as well, proving the Pacific side wasn't just sitting around waiting for an invite. San Francisco, for example, was officially incorporated in 1850, just 13 years after the city of Chicago. Not bad for a late bloomer that started as a foggy frontier town. Los Angeles was incorporated in 1850 as well, and Portland, Oregon in 1851. The point being that development on the West Coast wasn't all that far behind the Midwest region, but oh boy, was it stymied by the lack of quick and reliable transportation. Imagine trying to grow a city without decent roads or rails. It's like hosting a barbecue without inviting the grill. Basically, these cities were left to fend for themselves for much of their early existence. like plucky survivors in a Wild West reality show, relying primarily on natural resource boom and bust cycles to drive early populations of people. This would include the 1849 gold rush to Northern California. Nothing says population explosion like shouting Eureka and chasing shiny nuggets, only to bust when the easy gold runs dry. As the decades wore on and transportation and livability technologies improved, other major cities got developed and established as major population centers throughout the middle of the country. Boise, Phoenix, Salt Lake City, and Denver all incorporated between 1,860 and 1,907. Finally, the middle was getting some love, turning those dusty plains into bustling hubs without needing a gold rush gimmick every time. From there, the western half of the country began to develop, and the population grew steadily, like a slow-cooking barbecue that finally starts sizzling after the coals heat up. While that's all well and good, hey, progress is progress, even if it's not winning any speed races. There's been one area of the United States that hasn't grown all that much. This large belt that cuts the contiguous United States in half, like nature's way of saying nope. This is my quiet zone. No party crashers allowed. The population distribution of a country is always an interesting story. If one specific region is growing faster than others, there's a juicy tale behind that. Probably involving gold rushes or tech booms that make everyone flock like moths to a flame. Likewise, if a region is relatively underpopulated, there's also a story behind that. Maybe it's hiding some geographical secrets, or perhaps it's just too good at playing hard to get. But before we dive into why the United States has such a large underpopulated belt, if you're enjoying this video, now would be a great time to subscribe. More fun What If Geography videos are just a single click away, waiting to tickle your curiosity bone. Nowhere else in the rest of the United States is there such a large and relatively empty piece of land. It's as if the country decided to create a gigantic quiet zone where thorny weeds are more your neighbors than people. The entire area stretching from the Canadian border to the Mexican border is approximately 350,000 square miles, which is no small number. To better understand this figure, if this area were a state on its own, it would be larger than all existing states except Alaska, which is about 570,000 square miles. Yes, a sibling large enough to make Texas seem modest for once. In total, it makes up about 12% of the United States. But while its size is enormous, think about it, enough space to lose your car keys forever, right? That's only half the picture. The other half is comically sparse. The total population of this zone is just 3.1 million people, or less than 1% of the total population of the United States. That's almost the same size as the Denver metropolitan area in Colorado, which we'll touch on in a moment, like Denver being the most popular kid at the party. In each of the contiguous regions of the United States, vast expanses of rural farms, mountains, or forests are intersected by multiple large population centers, much like urban sprinklings on a wild donut. And this doesn't mean there aren't any population centers here, but they are still quite small, more like charming rest stops than thriving metropolises. The largest population centers within the belt are Lubbock, Texas, Amarillo, Texas, Midland, Texas, Abilene, Texas, Rapid City, South Dakota, Bismarck, North Dakota, San Angelo, Texas, and Odessa, Texas. After that, the population in cities and towns begins to drop rapidly, like a roller coaster after the big hill. And if you notice a trend here, you're right. Texas houses the vast majority of this region's population, and there are several reasons for that. Because everything is bigger in Texas, including their share of this vast, empty empire. So we've established that for its size and geographic position within the United States, the belt is definitely underpopulated. It's like the awkward middle child of the country that everyone forgot to invite to the population boom party. The only question now is why. As with most things in life or geography, which is basically life's oversized puzzle, there's never really a single answer. Nope. It's a confluence of things that team up like a quirky band of misfits to create the present-day scenario. In this case, we've got roughly 3 reasons why this belt has been left so underpopulated, stretching even into 2022, probably still chilling with more cows than condo developments. The first and most important reason probably lies in the fact that several Native American tribes offered the fiercest resistance to the U.S. military at the time. We're talking about warriors who weren't about to surrender their backyard without a fight. 5 historical tribes inhabit this belt of land: the Sioux tribe, the Cheyenne tribe, the Kiowa tribe, the Comanche tribe, and the Apache tribe. These people fought tirelessly and with great effort, like a no-trespassing team, to prevent the U.S. military and U.S. settlers from encroaching on their lands. By the late 1800s, the tribes were sadly largely wiped out and forced to settle on reservations, a tragic chapter that is nothing to laugh at. But by then, development in much of the western half of the country had already surpassed this region, which was already quite underdeveloped. Essentially, the party had advanced to this point without an invitation. The resistance of the indigenous tribes was certainly a significant factor in the early years of settlement, and we thank them for their resistance, of course. But this doesn't explain why the land wasn't heavily developed later on. No. That's where Mother Nature, with her dramatic ability, comes into play. And a large part of this is due to the influence of the Rocky Mountains on the region just east of it. As you can see, the Rocky Mountains create something called the rain shadow effect. Moisture accumulates on the west side, precipitation falls like a wet party disruptor down the mountain range, and nothing is left on the east side, leaving the east side high and dry, literally. This creates a predominantly arid or downright cold region, according to the polis and climate method used to determine the climate across geography. This particular belt consists of 64% arid desert, with plenty of sand dunes and rolling grasses, 28% cold and dry climate, very cold, dress warmly, and only 8% temperate with rare nice weather oases. This also means that actual farming, because who doesn't love growing their own food, which was one of the main motivations for settling in the 1800s and early 1900s, is very limited. It's like trying to farm on a huge, uncooperative rock. But there's something else affecting the Siamese population still moving to this region. Wild temperature fluctuations. If you've ever heard of a region's temperature dropping from about 21 degrees Celsius to 0 degrees Celsius in a single day, it probably came from this region or somewhere nearby. As if the weather suddenly had a tantrum and flipped the thermostat for fun. And this is largely due to the region's continental topography, which allows polar winds to descend quite quickly, as we've seen very recently. 1 minute you're wearing shorts, the next you're building a snowman. We're talking about clothing changes. In short, weather is one of the biggest reasons people move to or don't move to a place, and the climate in this region isn't mild, it's more like nature's roller coaster, lacking safety barriers. No country in the world has an even population distribution because people like to cluster together like penguins, and most people move for economic reasons. If a city or region is growing or shrinking, it's probably because of the economy, not just the scenery or lack thereof. For this generation, there aren't many reasons for people to move there, and active factors like weather and climate actively discourage people from moving. It's as if the ground is whispering, "Thanks, but no thanks, there are already enough dust storms." For these reasons, the region will likely remain low population in the future as well. Continuing its role as the country's ultimate tranquil zone, I made a wordplay. I hope you enjoyed learning a little about the low population zone of the United States. If so, please subscribe to my channel, and if you'd like to watch more of my videos, you can do so here. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Goodbye.